good morning, and welcome to the ZP Vlog and Podcast. So we do this ZP Vlog and Podcast every Sunday at 8 a.m. And it's really just a sort of, I want to say, a wrap up for news from Zimmer and Peacock for this week. So let me sort of jump into it a little bit. Um, One of the pieces of news that we put out this week, and for us, it is extremely significant, that we've just launched a 6-channel potentiostat. Now, obviously, when you can do 6 channels, you can go 1 channel, 6 channels, 12 channels, 18, 24, 30, 36, 42, 48, 54, 60, 66, 72, 78, um, 84, 90, 96. So the reason I bring it up to 96 is to say that obviously with this kind of platform, we can really go from, you know, instruments that just do 1 channel at a time to instruments that are doing 96 channels at a time. Anyway, it is significant for us because we really want to be able to control the hardware upon which we develop. So at ZP, we're an ISO 13485 contract developer and contract manufacturer of biosensors, and it means that we really have to control so many of the parameters. And so in the past, when you're kind of, if you're dependent on other people to sometimes make your instruments, if they're not ISO 13485 or following a QMS system, then it leaves you vulnerable as well. So we're delighted anyway to have this 6-channel potentiostat. We think it's extremely competitive compared to other 6-channel potentiostats in the market. And the nice thing about it is it's like our screen printed electrodes. We are the biggest users of this instrument. So it's kind of, um, it ensures that ZP really cares about the quality of this potentiostat because ZP is the one actually using the potentiostat, and I think that's what makes us really unique in the world of electrochemistry and electrochemical biosensing. That we're the only ones that, let's say, of developers of screen printed electrodes, biosensors, and electronics that routinely use these products. So great news for us, and I hope that really helps with the community as well. Something else that we have done this week is obviously our ZP Developer Zone. We do a ZP Developer Zone every Thursday at 8 a.m. London time, where we like to answer questions that have come in essentially from the week. And one of the questions that's come in from the week, or there were in fact 14 questions. One of them was about chloride resilient screen printed electrodes. One of them was around whether somebody should be using a silver chloride or a platinum counter electrode. And I definitely said use silver chloride. Sterilization of glucose and lactate sensors. I talked about our aseptic manufacturing. I talked about our potassium sensors. I've talked about protein detection using antibodies. I talked about quality control in SMPGs, self-monitoring blood glucose and glucometers. And we talked about the commercial landscape of organic electrochemical or organic conductors or transistors. We talked about magnetic particles. We talked about our range of biosensors, whether we could do electrodes parallel to flow and that, I should say perpendicular rather than flow. And we were definitely able to do that. So it was definitely a long webinar. I think the whole webinar ran for 60 minutes. So it gives you a sense of, because we're so willing to kind of do these kind of formats, it really encourages the questions. And so the more we do it, the more questions come in. And yes, it ran to 60 minutes. It was significant. I really want to say a big thank you as well to the ZP QMS team this week. We had a multi-day audit. As I say, we are ISO 13485. And under that ISO 13485, I realized that our potentiostats will also come under that because we will be using them in the development and manufacture of biosensors. So our potentiostats are ISO 13485, great. And we got no conformity issues, no minor conformity issues, and I think the auditor was actually really impressed. So I want to say a big thank you to our QMS team, and I know that there were a lot of people who contributed to it. But a particular thank you to our QMS manager. I think at ZP we're all really grateful for your excellence, your diligence, your warm heart also towards the team, and it's noted and it's appreciated. Just a little bit of a technical note that we put out there this week. A little while ago, um, we did something, we talked about MARD, which is the mean average relative difference. So mean average relative difference for us, that little blog post that we put out was in the context of CGM, continuous glucose monitoring. And I knew that in the sort of CGM space among academic colleagues, there's a discussion about all the sort of different parameters. And so a parameter that I was aware of was something called time in range. So if you're a diabetic and you have unfortunately hyper or above expected glucose concentrations, your hemoglobin can become glycated. Um, the sugar literally starts sticking to hemoglobin. This could be through actual covalent bonds, real chemical bonds. Um, One way of knowing your general level of elevation in your glucose is to measure HbA1c, which is your glycated hemoglobin levels. And it kind of says that if you have a glycated hemoglobin level of something like 48 millimole per mole, which is about 6.5%, it sort of says that your 6.5% of your hemoglobin is glycated. If it's 6.5% or less, then 80% of the time you've been within range. So what I would interpret that as saying that you've got good glycemic control. Most of the time, your blood glucose is something like 5 millimolar or 90 mg per dl if you're in the US. And if you have a 6.5% HbA1c, then you're a little glycated, but you're not overly glycated, and therefore you're showing good control. But because you now have CGM technology, continuous glucose monitoring, you don't have to use HbA1c as sort of a snapshot, because the HbA1c tells you what your glucose levels have been like over the last 2 to 3 months. CGM gives you continuous data, and so you can kind of calculate your time in range. Literally, you can set somebody a range of, let's say, 5 millimolar and see how much of the time they're actually within that range, and you can get the same kind of thing. And you can say, well, most 80% of the time this person's within range. And there's a debate that says that time in range, as calculated from a continuous glucose monitor, is equivalent to HbA1c. I would slightly suggest it might even be better, because you didn't need to go and get that finger stick test. You didn't need to test your HbA1c. You got this information essentially free from the CGM. So, a bit of a debate going on about time in range, which can be calculated from a CGM, a continuous glucose monitor, or whether you do a finger stick test and get HbA1c. Personally, I think it comes from CGM. I think it's less invasive. Something else that we did this week, and I'm really grateful for all the delegates that came and made it such a great event. To be frank, it was really great. Every month now, we're holding at least a workshop somewhere in the world. This month, we had a workshop in Horten in Norway. We do have a really nice, modern, well-equipped facility. We had a lot of speakers, where we gave out certificates to everyone who attended, and basically say thank you for coming, thank you for giving us your time for all those days. But it was a 2-day workshop. We cover CGM, continuous glucose monitoring, electrochemical techniques for electrochemical biosensor developers, and we also do IVD, in vitro diagnostics. I honestly, this workshop is really a distillation of, at least from my own career over 20 years, but we get then so much good contributions from the other people in the workshops as well, or the other speakers as well. I think it's a really valuable experience, and luckily for some of our new beginners as well, they get a really good start on electrochemistry because they attend that. So thank you for attending. If you want to come to a workshop on biosensing with ZP, might as well just know that we do them once a month, so there's never really much delay. Something else that we did as well is that we do distribute for a company called Zana. So Zana makes, I would say that their uniqueness comes in the sort of slightly higher power potentiostats. What I mean by that is sort of electrolysis applications, photoelectrochemical applications, solar applications, fuel cell type applications, battery and cells within battery type applications. So Zana is a German company, make a very high quality type of potentiostat, especially on the hardware. And this week we just did a quick video on what they call their PEC cell. This is a sort of photoelectrochemical cell. This basically allows you to kind of shine light into it using something like a solar simulator, and you can have electrodes in that solution, so you can do electrochemistry in the solution whilst light is coming through the solution. And the idea is that there's you're able to make photoelectrochemical transparent materials, and that can act as one of the electrodes. So we made a quick video for Zana on that. So I hope that's it could be of interest. So if I was just to do a summary this week, it does feel like an intense week, but we've launched a parallel potentiostat, 6 channels, really good price, lovely quality, because the biggest users of it are Zimmer and Peacock. We did do our ZP Developer Zone, 14 questions this week, 60-minute webinar. It's quite intense. ISO 13485, we are an independent developer and manufacturer of electrochemical biosensors. We passed the ISO 13485 audit with flying colors. We do have a big franchise in CGM, continuous glucose monitoring, and so we were able to how would I say that? We were able to we talked about time in range this week and versus HbA1c, which is glycated hemoglobin. We did our workshop on IVD, CGM, and electrochemical techniques for biosensor developers, and finally, we did a video around photoelectrochemistry as well. So if you've got any technical questions of Zimmer and Peacock, don't forget we do our workshops every Thursday at 8 a.m. London time, and we will do our vlog and podcast 8 a.m. next Sunday, 8 a.m. London time, I should say. So if you have any questions for ZP, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. Okay, thanks very much.